Welcome back to my live speaking test series where I record spontaneous answers to this week's latest IELTS speaking questions. Alright, let's go. Part 1. Do you like reading? Yeah, it's one of the most, I think, fun things to do with, any kind of time that you have. Of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, physical books, although I do prefer physical books because, they're just a lot more fun. And ebooks are definitely more convenient though, because most of what I read nowadays tends to be ebooks on my computer in PDF or EPUB form. But I've always liked reading ever since I was a child. In fact, I think started reading newspapers when I was, I guess, 4 or 5 years old, like before I started kindergarten even. I was just curious, like, well, what information does this paper have? And I, see a bunch of text, and I'm like, I want to know what that is. And I really love learning and finding out things, just information. It doesn't necessarily have to be academic, just anything. I'm really curious about how things work in general, and reading is a good way to find out stuff. Do you like to read at home or in other places? Honestly, I don't think I've ever really. Well, yeah, of course, I do like reading in libraries. They have a really good atmosphere. But, at the end of the day, I just prefer being at home. I am kind of, a homebody, so it's just a lot more fun. It's a lot more relaxing as well. The library, you've got, like, of course, I'm not someone who's very noisy, but it's definitely, there's so many people around that it can be kind of annoying at times. I prefer being alone and undisturbed when I'm doing my reading. So yeah, I probably would prefer a home, but there's many good places to read, like parks and gardens, only if there's not many people around. Otherwise, it's if there's people around, then it's not really a lot of fun. Do you usually read for leisure or work purposes? I would say it's a healthy mix of both, I guess. What's the last book I read? It's probably, yeah, I think probably nowadays my reading tends to involve a lot of, like, work related stuff. Just learning about how stuff works and improving my own skills. Again, it is still enjoyable because, I have great career, thankfully, and my work isn't drudgery, so I do enjoy reading. That's the whole reason I got into this career in the first place. So it's kind of a blend, I would say, but yeah, I'll pick whatever looks interesting. I really, it'll be something that's completely new, and I'll just read the title, and I'm like, yeah, I really want to read that, and I do that. Have you had family members with reading habits? Well, growing up, my parents, I guess, they did read, like, my dad would read newspapers, and I'd always be curious, like, what is this stuff? And I'd just, take the newspaper and start reading it myself. And of course, like, I remember that my aunt probably read, I guess, because she gave me a whole box of books when I was really young. But mostly my parents made it a point to kind of, get me whatever books I wanted. I just loved, reading. And I think it's probably, that's, I guess your background does have an effect on, the kind of skills that you end up having or the kind of hobbies that you, end up having. And I don't know for sure if they really enjoy reading. It's kind of like I don't see them do that a lot. But again, reading doesn't have to be the traditional type where you pick up a book. Anytime you're on your phone, you're reading, right? So that, of course, counts to some extent. It is kind of a mixture. I would say, yeah, they do enjoy it. Although I wouldn't know, like, what specific genres they like. I don't know that kind of stuff. What's your favorite book or story? Okay, what was your favorite book or story when you were a child? I had a lot of favorite stories. It's very difficult for me to pick. Although I can tell you that I still have this one book from my childhood. In fact, there's two books. So this was well, not exactly a gift actually. It was a hand-me-down from my cousins who, they didn't really like reading, I guess, or I don't know, maybe they were bored with the books. But like I said, I got a huge box of books from my cousins, from my aunt, and one of the books was called Folk Tales from the Soviet Union, and I think that really instilled in me this curiosity of, like, oh my God, what's this culture like, and what's this language like? Like, oh my, of course it was in English, But like they, had all the information that it's translated and stuff like that. And I think that kind of maybe, was a very important moment. Like I've always been interested in other cultures and, other languages and stuff like that. So I think that kind of was that, it kind of paved the way for my future interests as life progressed. For example, today I've learned a fair bit of Russian and I'm also working on other languages. So I think my early reading exploits did have a really big role to play in the kind of person I am today. Okay, let's see what we have for part two. Again, I don't pick these questions. My assistant does. Hi, Selena, if you're watching. And so it's completely like new to me, okay? So let's see. Okay, describe your first day at school. You should say where it was, what happened, who else was there with you, and explain how you felt on that day. Okay, okay, as you know, I'm sorry about the noise. As you know, I don't really make my notes, and I'm not going to do that here as well. But this is like, to tell you honestly, I don't remember my first day at school. I mean, who does that? I mean, it was probably like, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. But anyway, I'll try. So, I don't exactly remember which year it was. I think it was probably 1990, I guess. I don't know, this depends on what you call school. Like, do you mean first grade? Do you mean kindergarten or nursery or something like that? Because, again, I don't really remember all the details. I do remember, like, I had this uniform which was red. Like, it was like a plaid pattern or something. It was red and white, and we had this, little, we had this shirt and it had like red sleeves, half sleeves. And we also had, well, the girls had a skirt, and we had to wear red socks and I think black shoes, yes. The, Mary Janes. So I was just walking and, I was pretty pumped up. I mean, I was really excited, I guess. And my mom was there with me. Of course, she walked me to school, and it's the first day. Every parent's gonna be excited. And I don't remember this particularly, but my mom says that all the kids were crying, and I kind of remember that. I do remember that. The kids were like, crying and really like really ugly crying, like loudly and being like, it's the end of the world, that kind of thing. Um, and I was a bit puzzled. I mean, I was excited. I didn't really, like, I don't know, I didn't cry. But then she says, well, seeing everybody else cry kind of made me want to do the same thing. So I don't remember again. I'm just kind of saying what my mom told me, that I started to cry because the other kids were crying. It just, was kind of an empath, I guess. But I mean, I didn't really feel, upset or anything. Like, I knew, like, yeah, school's gonna end and, I'm gonna go back home to my mom. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why the other kids were overreacting so much. But I don't really remember, like, what happened next. I think we were in this room and there was some really young teacher and I don't know, I think we were being taught just like activities, like, we had to color our palms and like stick, our palm prints on some piece of paper, and then they were drying it, and then they would just like hang it up, and like here's everybody's palm prints. Like, it was just a fun activity. Of course, you can't teach anything on the first day of school. I mean, what are you going to teach a bunch of 5-year-olds? Nothing meaningful anyway. And I remember that it ended kind of early. I don't know, maybe I wasn't expecting it to end. I'm not particularly sure, but like I was, I remember the school bell rang, and I just like went out, and my mom was there. It was really uneventful. I mean, for me anyway. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I mean, I'm sure other people have better memories, but I really don't remember all that much. Okay, and now we'll move on to part three. Let's see what we have here. Okay, do you think parents should drive the kids to school, or should kids go by themselves? Well, I mean, depends on whom you consider a child. I mean, to a parent, you're gonna be a kid even if you're 40 years old, I guess. But I mean, if you're talking about really young kids, like, less than 12, 13 years of age, I guess. Again. I would say probably if they're under 14, 15, then yeah, you should definitely accompany them, or at least, have somebody accompany them. Because, I mean, let's face it, the world is dangerous, and there's many, child trafficking gangs and people, and, it might seem like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. So many kids go missing each year, and I think it would be stupid and irresponsible, if a parent just let their kid go to school all by themselves. Like I see that often when I go out and I see like kids really young, like 10 years old, 9 years old, and they're just out there just walking by themselves to school. Like, how do you know that someone's not going to pick up the child and just abandon him or her? Like, how can you be so confident or careless or stupid, really? I think that once you're like a teenager, really, like, you're 15, 16 years old and you're pretty much independent, then you could, like go by yourself, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't think it's smart. I think it's really careless, and it really, in fact, it should be. I mean, it should be something that you consider to be abandonment legally, because I mean, they're too young to know right from wrong. Even if you teach them, I mean, it's a kid. A kid's brain is what? I mean, it's so underdeveloped. Even if you tell them about stranger danger and all these things, are they really going to remember that stuff? Really? I mean, you really think that a child is going to be able to say no to candy from a stranger who's going to abduct them? Come on. I'm really passionate about this, as you can, you can understand. Is it better that children are independent or reliant on their parents? I think it's better to be independent, because ultimately, like, that's the point of good parenting, is to raise your child to be, a successful adult. I mean, if you're reliant on your parent all the time, it's just like, you want them to have fun with you, you want them to, play with you, and it's just, I mean, I don't know, I guess it sounds annoying, to me. I mean, when I was a child, I made my own fun. I was a single child, and I mean, I did everything I wanted to do myself. Like, I want to paint, you want to read, you want to watch TV, you want to go and, make something. Do it. I mean, I never needed somebody to entertain me. I would create my own entertainment. I don't know if it was because I was a single child. Maybe that had something to do with it. But I don't know, it seems, I don't know, foolish and strange to me. Like, why would you want your kid to be reliant on you? Wouldn't you want them to be independent? Wouldn't you want them to learn how to deal with things on their own? I mean, you're not going to be there forever. You're going to die at some stage, and your kids are going to have to live without you for many, many years, decades even. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. How can we teach kids to be independent? Well, you could start by not coddling them. Lots of parents will just really, like, it's what we call helicopter parenting, where you monitor every single thing they do, which, monitoring is important, like, for safety purposes and everything. But controlling activities and saying, yeah, you can go to dance class, but don't go to karate class, it's just like, ugh, too much. I think you should just let them do what they want to, as long as, it's not like something that's harmful or risky or dangerous. But again, there has to be a healthy amount of, like, let them climb stuff. Like, they're not gonna die if they fall, if it's a soft surface. I mean, it's okay, you learn. Like, you hurt yourself once and you learn really important lessons. I think you should allow them to fail. Failure is very important. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you don't fail, how exactly are you going to learn? Right? I mean, it's only when you do something and it doesn't turn out to be successful. I think that's a more important learning event compared to just doing something successful, which is good, which is great, of course. But, failure is important. It's important that you learn to fail, and you learn to fail fast. That is something that took me a long time to learn. Like, I've always been independent though, but like, I've come to realize that failure is a gift. It's really vital in your entire, development process. What's the impact of excessive interference with the child? Yeah, you basically raise someone who's, just, what do we call it, a mama's boy and daddy's girl, I mean, it's unhealthy, and you don't want someone who can't make decisions on their own. I remember when I was a child, like when I was, I guess, 5 years old or something, I was like, like, I had difficulty, like, removing a piece of clothing or putting it on. I don't remember, but I was like, oh, can you help me? And mom was like, why don't you try? You can't just be like, and that was a really important thing, because you have to try. How will you know what you're capable of if somebody else is always doing something for you, right? You would never get to experience your strengths, your weaknesses. It's important to know your boundaries as a human being. How will you develop if you don't know what you're capable of? And how will you know what you're capable of if you are never given the freedom, the independence to do things, figure them out by yourself? Someone's always telling you, this is good, this is bad, do this, don't do that. It's just, you're going to create like a puppet. And if that's okay with you, I guess that's fine. But I personally don't think that's ideal. You don't want a puppet. You want someone who can take on the world. You want someone who's assertive. You want to raise a child who's confident, who's able to take care of themselves, who's able to operate, as an independent human being. It just puzzles me that there are, in fact, parents who would basically want to, and again, it doesn't come from a place of care. It just comes from, I don't exactly know what, but it's just not very healthy. I mean, when you think that the whole goal of parenting is so that one day this kid is going to grow up, they're going to be on their own, successful, independent, and I'll have done that job by myself. I think that's the reward of being a parent, right? That like you are responsible for all of these, years, developmental years of a child, and to see them be successful. Okay, those were really good questions. Okay, well, I think that's all for today. I think this one kind of ended a bit earlier, which is good, because, usually they end up being like 20, 22 minutes or something, which of course is, well, I mean, it's not bad. I'm just saying that it's better to keep this to 11 to 14 minutes. Well, I hope that was helpful. I will see you now on Wednesday. I'm going to write another essay. Or, of course, you can just check back later. That's next week, again on Saturday, where I'll record another speaking test. Well, that was fun. See you later. Bye-bye.